he was funny, and he was fast, and he would weave in and out of characters. He would get Shakespearean. He would just get into like, oh, yes, thank you. Yes, then there's a guy sitting at home going, what the hell is going on there? Yes. Then there's a kid going, that's not the way. Yes. Then he's like, Martha, Grandma, and ball and chain and kick and ball and yes, thank you.
It's not that common that comedians take their own lives. I mean, it does happen.
Yeah.
Like with Robin. Robin was a big one for a lot of people because he was not just a comedian. He was like a cultural icon in terms of like his films. You think of all the different movies that guy was in, and he had such a range too. That's what you like, to me, when you know how brilliant a person really is. Like, do you remember that film that he did about the crazy film processing guy? It was like 24-hour film. You remember those little film booths, photo booths that people would go to where you bring back in the old days, you youngsters, we would have a camera and the camera would have film in it, and you'd have to bring the film to a place for processing. And Robin Williams did a film about a guy who was a psychopath who was obsessed with someone from processing their picture. 1 hour photo, that's what it was.
Nice.
It was fucking great. And you just, from that film, you realize the range this man had.
Right.
You know, I mean, from Good Will Hunting, from, you know, so many different. Yeah, he was a genius.
Then was on our show, this show, and the old show, a total of nearly 50 times.
Right, a total of 50 times.
50 times. Two things would happen because Robin was on the program. One, I didn't have to do anything.
Yes.
All I had to do was sit here and watch the machine.
Yeah.
And two, people would watch. If they knew Robin was on this show, the viewership would go up because they wanted to see Robin.
Yeah.
And believe me, that wasn't just true of television. I believe that was true of the kind of guy he was. People were drawn to him because of this electricity. This whatever it was that he radiated that propelled him and powered him. And then he came on, when I came back after my heart surgery, Robin was nice enough to come on that night, and it was very, very funny and very, very appropriate. And here's a picture that I will now cherish even more than I had previously. There are 4 people right there.
Wow.
Two of which wildly funny. Insanely funny. 2 are not.
Last night I went down to the Comedy Store, and they had actually had a memorial service for Robin Williams, and it was awesome, man. It was, you know, just like so many people from back in the day came out that were down there. I'm wondering when the last time all of that group of people were down there. And they were all telling stories. It was like, I got there late, unfortunately. But Norm Macdonald, Yakov Smirnoff had some great stories. Jackson Purdue. Then there's a couple of people that were in part of his improv group. We're all telling all these great stories, and it was a really great thing. But I got to tell you, man, that was, you know, there's one of those things where you think, you know, yeah, I love that guy. I love his movies. I think that guy's hilarious. You know, you don't realize it, and then something like that happens. You're just like, wow, man, I had no idea how much that guy affected me. I did get a chance one time to do a show with him. He always... you know, he would just come down to clubs. I'd always heard about it. I know he did it. He lived up in San Francisco, but people were saying, like, yeah, there's this open mic he went to every single week. Bartnick told this great story about how he was at a concert. He was kind of like the unofficial mayor of, like, San Francisco when they needed, like, a laugh or something. Like, I guess Bartnick was at some big concert, and it was an outdoor thing, and it rained. And... you know, so they're like, apologize, everybody, the bands can't go on. Everybody's standing there fucking looking like a bunch of fucking wet shelter dogs and stuff. And Robin Williams was in the crowd, and he just went up on stage in like a fucking rain poncho and did 45 minutes in front of a soaking wet, angry crowd that wasn't getting their show. And he crushed, just did like a headlining set. And then in the end, like, the sun was coming out, and he's like, all right, the bands are coming out, blah, 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 and just went right back into the crowd. It was like a zillion stories like that I heard. And So anyways, I was doing, Jeff Garland had this show he does every now and again down at the UCB. And it's this really cool format. In the end, he has like this improv game called the Combo Platter. And it's basically they pick a subject and each person has to go up and riff on it for 5 minutes. And then you sit down, and then the next round is you go back up again, but anybody can interrupt anybody at any time. And it just starts going, you just start adding to whatever they're doing. And one night I went down there and I was doing the show with them, and Robin showed up and Garland knew him and everything, and they went in with the show, and I actually got to do improv. I was standing right next to him doing improv. I literally felt like I was on Comic Relief, you know? I mean, we were sitting in the chairs, right? It's just like such a fucking weird moment, but I was sitting in the chair next to him. You know, he had that thick arm hair. It's like the space between us was a little tight, but it wasn't anywhere where we still should have been touching. But his arm hair was so fucking thick, it actually was touching my arm. I had to move my arm. I remember thinking all those jokes that he used to do about how he felt like he was wearing a sweater and all that type of thing. But it was obviously one of the great things I ever got to do. And fortunately, because he was such an open guy and such a nice guy, sweet guy, he didn't come in with that, I've been doing this forever, get out of the way, kid. He didn't have that vibe at all. He was like a really vulnerable kind of vibe, that because he came with that vibe, I was actually able to like enjoy it as it was happening rather than look back on it and be like, oh, I got to do that, but I was so in my head I had to like knock him down, That's like something I have to do sometimes when I get a gig that's so big. I literally have to develop a certain level of hatred for this person that I don't hate. I have to be like, fuck this guy. Fuck this guy for making me feel so fucking uncomfortable with his success or whatever. But the way Robin was, you didn't have to do that when you're around him. So, thanks to Jeff Garland for fucking, having that show so I could have that memory. But it's definitely a huge, huge, huge fucking indescribable loss. And it just sucks. I hate that it ends that way.